Welcome back to yet another night on Xenon. We're 2 games in, 3 more best of 1s to go, 2 of which featuring Team SESH as they try to fight their way into a playoff spot. First up, against Fluffy AIMERS, the team towards the top of the group standings. And again, like I had said, SESH really fighting for a playoff spot, fighting for their first win, as they're yet to really get anything of note on the board so far. Generally, a lot going into this for SESH, because a loss now means that you're basically done.
Yeah, and for SESH, I mean, you know, they did make Element. They were one of the first teams eliminated. So you really can only go up from here, but there really isn't a lot motivating you besides the fact that you just have nothing to lose. The floor is right below you, but the ceiling is infinitely up from here.
Yeah, and they've only played 3 games of the season so far, the least of anybody in their group. So it's safe to say that, still some opportunities left, as they've got 3 games left to play, but this one notably important because after this they play Outlast Black, who were the team currently holding that playoff spot that only SESH can fight for, as Final Form already eliminated. And so SESH now looking for a big win here. Technically not necessary that they get a win tonight, but they need to, right now, but they need to get a win at all tonight to keep up with Outlast, who are at 4. Fluffy AIMERS, though, at 9. Only 1 loss so far this season. That was to Makers, and it was 7-5. So far, just proving exactly why they were one of the better teams coming out of Element 3, considered a solid T2 team. They qualified for a restart. They've looked very solid, beating the teams they need to beat so far in Xenon. Just showing everybody that the roster changes they made, adding Resident and Emilio, have really seemed to, turn over a new leaf for this roster.
Yeah, I think when you look at Element, they really didn't seem to have a lot of cohesion under JJ, and maybe that was that they just needed a couple of changes to maybe really lock that team in. The 44% attack percentage doesn't inspire too much thought behind that, but that 67% defensive rate I think just shows that they are a little bit better than some of their other competition. Usually you are going to have a much better defensive win percentage when you are just playing against teams that don't actually know how to attack. I think Fluffy AIMERS should be able to walk into the playoffs, maybe not as strong as they potentially wanted, but still, I think the spot really is theirs to lose.
A notably good defensive season from Fluffy so far. Team SESH on the other end of it, though, well, not too much of note really at all for them. 31% defense win rate and 33% win rate on the attack. 3 games in, they're 11 rounds down in their round differential. On average, only winning 3 or 4 rounds per game. So, safe to say, has not been the start to the season that they wanted. Also, one of their games, a 7-2 loss against Final Form. The other team that is in the bottom of the group, who've already been eliminated, confirmed, and not going to be going to the playoffs. So it's not even like you could say they've had to play against some great teams. They still have Fluffy AIMERS right now and Space Station Academy tomorrow coming up. So not a lot promising coming down the bend for these guys. And it seems like their easiest matchups are behind them, and they came out of it on the wrong end of some rough scorelines.
Yeah, it's really hard to find your footing, but when you do have just one last day where you need to give it your all, I think that can really spur some momentum inside you, some motivation to get things done. The map should be interesting because I think with Fluffy AIMERS being, I call them a checklist team in Element 3, the more complex the map, the better it will be for them. Clubhouse isn't really going to be one of those. If we got Lair, if we got Nighthaven, I think that really would have benefited Fluffy AIMERS, and it's easy to see why SESH did want to take out Nighthaven, because they wanted to make sure that it was going to be on a little bit more even ground. You do see Fluffy AIMERS, I believe that means they're going to start on the defense. They have that higher win percentage. Get out in front, get a 4-2, maybe even a 5-1 with that good defensive win percentage that they have. I think they've really got a good ways to go.
And good map for SESH in this case is they had some success on it in qualifiers, qualified to Element 3 with this map in the pool, qualified to Xenon in the very first qualifier with this map in their pool too. So makes sense that they'd want to go to a map like this. Fluffy AIMERS on the other side, though, also quite good on it. They already beat Space Station Academy 7-5 on it. just earlier this season in their last matchup that they played in. So very promising map for both of these teams. They both have good results on it. It seems that it's a map ban phase that they are both happy with, but given the nature of these two teams' success and the lack thereof for SESH, I'd have to imagine that would favor Fluffy AIMERS pretty intensely going into it, no matter how good of a map it seems to be for the side of Team SESH.
I was going to kind of say the same thing. It's like, no matter what, the scales are going to tip towards Fluffy AIMERS. When it comes to players, when it comes to record, even just past history as a team on whatever map, Fluffy AIMERS are always going to come out on top. For SESH, you mentioned that this wasn't a must-win. I believe they are down 4 points, so they do need to at least get an overtime loss, or that's the one thing they have to avoid is a regulation loss. Everything else is essentially a good thing that they can work off of in their game tonight against Outlast Black. Will be the final best of one.
Yeah, that's going to be the really important one. That's the last best of one of the night. Tomorrow, SESH still with a chance against Space Station Academy, but still, that's not a matchup that you feel like is going to lean too heavily in your favor either. And Outlast Black, the important one, because that's the team you're racing for that last spot against. So you need to take all the points that you can there, not just for yourself, but also to keep it away from them. Grim and Monty taken off of the board first. Grim, a little more interesting than Montaigne, who seems to see ban all the time and play when he is not banned, but still. Kaid taken off of the board right after as well, who's a little bit more niche, but still very common, especially on this map, trying to allow the hatches to get open, and they will be only easier to open, along with the walls, as Tubarao, the last one, taken off of the board.
It's going to leave up a zombie, potentially leave up maybe Valkyrie as well. We might see some CCTV play, especially with Grim off of the board. You're mainly going to be relying on Capital for those potential rafters clear, because the combo on hide, you deploy it right above the rafters, and the bees are essentially going to cover a magnificent portion of those rafters, which makes it really hard for the player up there to avoid it. That's going to be something later down the line. Fluffy AIMERS being intelligent, starting on Church, most likely going to go to Gym next as well. Those are the tertiary sites that we're talking about, that either when teams have to fall back on something, that things get really dire, or they're just dominating, like we might see Fluffy AIMERS potentially do as they bring out a pretty basic strategy on this basement site. You've got the Mare, you've got the Bandit as well. Only question is, are they going to extend anybody off the site?
5 seconds to insertion.
Doesn't seem like it. Maybe Resident, given where he started the round as well as where the mute is, might try and play something off the site a little bit, and that mute often used for roam extensions and stuff of that nature. Also, the kitchen hatch already open, so that pretty much tells you that they are going to try and go for some kind of big extension. Interesting opening of the middle wall too. Does actually create some more favorable angles. The attackers can't just walk out of Moto and walk into an open wall. They have to kind of walk an awkwardly, decently long way through the hallway before they can walk into the site through that wall they've opened up, and the angle's a bit harder to play around as an attacker. But so far, Team SESH, the attackers themselves, just showing some presence here and there. Resident very aware of it, but not quite getting an engagement yet, as he's playing it very passive.
Pretty basic clear. Wonder if they really cleared out the second floor. A player making themselves known. Emilio, gotta be wary whether or not to extend back up onto that second floor. He's had the choice made for him. It's gonna be not exactly a 1-for-1 trade, as Neo got injured. There's gonna be nobody to really capitalize on that, so the trade should come, but you just see Rival hanging out, waiting for a player directly entering his crosshair.
One man down after the roam clear, nobody breaking open that window just yet. He should have gotten back, but now someone's officially done it. Problem is, though, the attackers don't seem to suspect someone being exactly where he is. As a matter of fact, they think he's fully cleared out, so he's just going to wait for the opportunity. And all these mute jammers working to his own advantage. This a strat you're not going to be able to pull off a second time around, as they will be very aware of clearing that angle, but nobody giving themselves up to him just yet. He wants to sneak around the corner. They seem to be favoring a Moto side take with this, but he's going to make his play no matter whether or not you're ready for it, or if you're even using the hatch he's sitting on. Free kill for Rive, or for Rival, and now he could possibly fall back down the open hatch. JJ trying to support from the staircase, almost gets his head taken off for it. But still no fallback from Rival as he is continuing to exist up here before the execute.
Risk a lot by pressuring Rival, but you also are risk so much not attacking him. The rest of Fluffy AIMERS, Great Gunners in their own right, they're going to shred of Team SESH. It's a 3v2 with 30 seconds left, and the rest of Team SESH trying to do a one-sided push here.
1 HP left on Lunar too, so he almost misses out. But instead, with an extra player down, it could come back, and Lunar has even gotten one more under Resident in a 1 versus 1 against JJ. Heavily disadvantaged in the HP battle, and with how fast that Vector shoots, it may work against him in the 1 versus 1. With one player down on each side, JJ will end up with the kill that he wanted. And down goes Lunar, close from SESH, and good job isolating Rival, not making him too big of an issue, but it's not enough.
I think Team SESH, it's hard to call that a failed attack simply because nobody expects Rival to A, be playing in kitchen that late, and B, to actually stay there after being found out. Like, because those are the two trains of thought. It's like, okay, you get the one, there's about a minute left, you've already caused a good bit of disruption. They're not going to actually know if he's going to drop or if he's going to stay in the kitchen. You just drop, get the player in the site, and instead he decides to stay. Be this very vague threat, of which SESH essentially ignores, and that makes their push really, really difficult to get off because they constantly have to be having eyes in the back of their head, worrying about if there's going to be a player coming from behind, getting that quick little stab in. I don't think Rival had exactly the impact that he wanted. It was mostly the players on the site that really hunker down, get the job done, made it so that the players on Team SESH wouldn't have a very, very lopsided attack still end up in their favor.
Still, SESH almost able to bring it back, and we'll go to round 2 where now they got to head into gym and bedroom. Typical overhold on Cash and CC from Fluffy AIMERS, and Team SESH going to try and go at that part of the map very first off with 2 different hard breachers to possibly open up this wall with a couple ace charges. The thermite charge probably to be used more towards Jacuzzi. I think the con single wall might be the one to get opened up first, with all the Flores drones opening up as many angles, and that's generally the theme of the start of this round here for SESH. Open up all the angles, make sure this defense is uncomfortable over on that extension, couple cutoffs here and there, and then you can start to make your play while making sure that nobody able to fall back comfortably.
Another ankle. Getting opened up. Maybe his not being rooted out of Logi so far. Although this
one
should
reinforcement
be
on this wall?
final hold. There's one soft and one reinforced. I don't exactly know why. You still have the castle barricade designed, which usually is there if you're potentially trying to do the bandit trick of sorts. This isn't your defaultiest of default holds here, because most of their stock is actually over by this cache area. Impact really isn't gonna do much. There was no.
Attackers have dropped the
Oh,
bomb.
Wow, he's actually able to get that too. So Fluffy AIMERS, they take that thermite off the board. His job was done, and now a lot falls onto TK. And this wall should be able to get open, make it a lot easier for that shield to get down and for Rival to be taken care of.
Yeah, Rival playing Wamai going to be hard to flush out. Neo doesn't even use an Ash charge. Instead, doesn't want to break the shield at all. Just takes a Rival out with the gun and makes sure it's even heading into that execute. JJ able to trade things back on a big flank attempted, but not too successful, as TK will trade him out right after, and it will remain even. That extra man down on the defense, in spite of losing one more on the attack, going to be very beneficial, and Space and Neo are going to team up to take down Resident. That means Emilio and Deity have got to start to make a play. Emilio getting more and more aggressive towards this construction door, but has to also be wary of the Logi threat. That's exactly a threat that's being executed right on him at that moment, but TK is going to get taken down by Emilio. So, not a massive issue as the Logi push just yet, but here comes Neo, and he's got 4 with it. A quad for the Ash, walking straight into the bomb site, and Team SESH fire back in round 2.
Remember back in SCS 7, Neo being the new Aerial or Eyes Academy pickup, he had this massive peak up against, I believe it was the Favelas, and that was kind of his tip top of we'd seen him. It's been a little bit downhill for him, but here he's on Team SESH. He's trying to get his team into the playoffs, and he can still perform. Happy getting that quad, essentially securing that 2K with not a lot of help from space, simply because you've only got that bolt action sniper up. You're not going to be that great at getting a pinch when you only have one full auto weapon. So a lot of it just does fall to Neo to actually get the job done. And I think if there's any player on SESH that you really, really want to hand a gun to, it's going to be Neo. Lunar as well, being that the second frag, with space being the third, usually relegated to the kind of flex flank watch as well. I think Fluffy AIMERS, if they could shut down Neo, a lot of the issue is really, really taken care of.
Even still, great start to this map for SESH, showing a lot of prominence on the attacks. I know our friend Ali was actually hyping up TK and his IGLing to me once, and I had never really seen him play at a super high level. That was before E3, but clearly doing a great job IGLing. At least I presume he's still in the IGL role, but IGLing these attacks. Really close in round one. Tough site to attack against a tough team defending it. And they're doing a good job in round two, evening things out already. Almost caught on the mirror window as Deity, but he won't quite get punished for that aggressive play. Instead, they're going to play around that open mirror, try and bandit trick, C4 trick, and just generally dispatch of anybody trying to open up that main CC breach as the Maverick just torches it open a little bit to try and bait out a C4, and that has worked perfectly. JJ's C4 already ripped and gone. And so Util completely gone. No more C4s at all for the defense.
You noticed a lot of teams have fallen a little bit back on that mirror strategy. You use the black mirror to kind of pop out the Selma or Thermite breach or whatever. It's a very tricky trick, difficult to kind of pull off, get success. If it works, it's great. Otherwise, you're running a lot of risk. Very quick shot there from JJ. The ROU stuff just before it reaches the bomb, so that actually destroys a lot of the crux of Team SESH. So Space essentially throws one away. Still got 3 incense pocket as JJ just peeks, bursts down Space. The ROU initially fails. That is the only one that's going to be deployed.
Interesting hold over by bedroom as well. With these holes in the Logi wall, that player in construction who's also kind of playing in cash at the same time, ready to deal with that CC jump in, can also deal with a drop down the Logi hatch. So interesting. I like that use in multiple angles at once, and it's clear that SESH were trying to take advantage of the fact that not too many guns are trained on the site itself. But here goes Resident and Emilio following up with one right after. Now TK left alone, was praising his IGLing, but it seems something gone horribly wrong this time around, as he is the only one who could possibly frag out. Still case in hand, so things could be a little worse, but really grasping at straws and grasping at silver linings with that comment, as TK able to get one nice shot into JJ, but traded out right after by Fluffy Emilio, as the names trip me up, and Fluffy won't trip up in that third round.
I know, it's supposed to be after the name.
Yeah, why is it before? Why is it before?
I love the
It is cool, I like
team.
it, but it's hard it makes my job hard, so I actually don't like
I just
it.
love if we're going off of that logic.
What?
JJ's name would be Fluff JJ, and his team would be the ball sacks or something. I'm so glad he brought that back. I can't remember when he actually had JJ Ballsack as his name. It must have been.
Wasn't it Wildcard? Like Wildcard Aces?
No, I think it was
Might have been
before
sooner.
Wildcard Aces.
Yeah, because I wasn't here. Before that.
Because I think, funny enough, I mentioned SCS 7 when I was talking about Neo. I think it might have been around then. Because
That makes
that's
sense.
that
was the season of the tomfoolery usernames based on what you guys talked
and
about.
it had to be then, and it just has not gone away. I'm very glad he brought it back because it's enjoyable to see. Speaking of JJ, very good round for him. 5-2. He's not the guy you usually expect to be the one getting the kills. Usually he might be on the front line, might be dying first. I don't know. He's definitely fallen back on that, but Great to see him start to frag out. As I mentioned in the first round, how all of Fluffy Aimers have that. Gotta be worried about them. They are always ready to be gun up, take you off the board.
Yeah, the Mira holding down the site when people try to direct take it, taking a page out of Karn's book with how many times we've seen him have great plays, specifically on Mira when he needs to step up on the site itself. And JJ, more than willing to do just that. As 30 seconds into round number 4, still yet to put too much pressure on Rival, but he overswings as Lunar opens up the stock door. And he gets his head opened up at that. Good opening pick. As the Solus already down, not just the Solus, but Rival, a dominant entry fragger in his own right, and Fluffy Aimer is going to need to decide whether they want to cut their losses and head back, or start to lunge at maybe some responses to that loss in the opening gunfight.
Eddie made his decision, brings out the Kiba, still stays the course. Emilio just pushed up. Nobody around him was just hoping and praying that he'd be able to get a kill. There is Resident as everybody on Fluffy Aimers is just off the site, ready to ball. JJ's gonna hop back in the site. He's the only player left. And now Deity, he's dead. What a round.
Yeah, they go right for the objective. Good gap call, gap spotted. Nice shot from JJ, though. To deny TK the right to get into the bomb site. The other two teammates weren't actually the gap spawners. I like sending two after an open opportunity like that, just so they can trade one another out, just like they did. Make sure that instead of a 3v2, you're in a 2v1. JJ, without a lot going for him in this situation, and the info on his position, with that cam being left up in the hallway. Already shoots one inside of blue, but now he's going to be even less ready for a cam that could possibly spot him out elsewhere. Clean, tight angle onto a possible moto play, and that seems to be exactly what's happening, at least for now. Soft reaching is gone from this team, so they're not going to really be able to walk into the wall unless they want to DMR it open. It's an odd way to approach it. Space. Did they get the kill? No matter how strange the way they chose to get into the bomb site was, it won't even matter, because the kill is found as soon as they hop through the hole.
That's what the kids call an SSG roam, right?
I like how that term is just any roam on Clubhouse Basement.
That's where the joke is.
Yeah,
it's just like that.
That seems like an SSG roam. Did they pick mute? It's good enough. I
What
feel
do
like
you
it's
even
fine.
call that? It was just like, all right, let's just throw in some angles, have us walk at the enemy, and then maybe we win it. Hell yeah.
That was just a really weird round. I'm gonna be honest. It's a round where you kind of aren't taking things 100% serious. I just don't think that that's what you would seriously do if you really were trying to take every round to its most. Because even then, as soon as Rival dies, you don't have. I think it was Deity who was on the Azami. Deploy the Kiba, stay the course. You don't have Emilio pushing in through what I believe was essentially bar by him. It's so odd and so just not even unlike this team, just unlike something you would do in a competitive environment. I think you just call that one wraps. Go next.
Yeah, maybe that one's done. That might have been a strat that worked a couple times in a scrim, caught some teams off guard. Regardless, didn't work that time, and they are going for a very different approach. Still, kind of with a similar Azami towards top central stairs, or rather mid-central stairs, and not a very good 1v1 there against Space, because Space kind of didn't shoot back. Resident just given an opportunity at that second pick. First one onto Badger. 0-5 to start off. Still yet to get a kill. The only one in the server who is yet to do so. And Fluffy Aimers, unlike last round, they're going to fall back immediately because they have their main advantage. They got what they wanted out of that roam. Doesn't matter. You can take all the time you want. Your Ram is dead and your Capital is dead. Not only is the Vert going to be way less prevalent than it would be, but your Execute also going to be heavily weakened.
You get the hatches open, but hatches are kind of a given on these sites. It's mostly why you bring the Habana and like the Ace as well, maybe the Heartbreak Charges, so that you can then focus your Selmas on that triple wall. So the hatches are open. As you said, you don't got anything for the site. Where
Three
does
flashbangs.
anything come from? Yeah, like flashbangs.
Maybe we'll get down the Moto hatch.
Throw a claymore at somebody. I have no idea. The vertical probably isn't going to get too much because, I mean, it's just going to deny Fluffy AIMERS just some entry points, but they're not going to be forced from their position. All they can really do is just simply wait. They've got C4s in their pocket. I mean, they might not have too much intel. It's mainly just going to be if there's any Keepa barriers in the way and any potential black eyes as well. Otherwise, it's just going to be guns up, hope everything works as it should.
Gun up in dirt, good kill for Deity. And well, gun up's working as it should. Seems to be the way this round is ending so far is Fluffy. Leave 2 players left in the attack. They're going to try and go for the Kool-Aid attack, or at least maybe fake that. One does walk in. Lunar, 4 HP after he ends up through. The Moto play also perfectly sniffed out by the defense, and everything expected and dealt with flawlessly by Fluffy AIMERS.
Yeah. Kind of the expected outcome when you have an attack that starts like that on a site that definitely does need a bit of utility and maybe just a twinge of luck as well. There's that CCTV cache that I talked about all the way back in round 1. A blitz pick onto the Raptors area is not the dumbest idea. Monty would be kind of your go-to because he's a great way to just push up those stairs and then eventually force the player who's actually on Raptors back, because I mean, you can't do much. You've either got the impacts and they're either going to work up against a Monty, or you're just going to die. So Team SESH bringing out that blitz, forcing who I believe should be rival away from the Raptors, because usually the Wamai is the person who plays up there because he can constantly deploy those magnets, use it to root out potentially any fire bolts, which Lunar is now going to be on the Capitao. SESH is going to be onto the Ace, so I believe the idea of rooting out the Raptors is still there. It's a different strategy than the blitz, but you can still see the plan in motion here.
Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
Certainly so. Is the Capitao going to be very instrumental in getting that done? Wamai on the other side, so it'll be harder, as well as the Azami being left up. That's what happens when you have 2 bands that kind of accomplish the same thing, that being making it easier to open the walls. Deity with a less than wise peek, especially with a gun with that much recoil and a one-time scope. However, he's actually put down by Badger, who's finally on the board, and wins that with another one-time scope. Could have had the 2.5, but opted for the hollow. Another swing now coming out from Resident, at least swinging and seeing if he could find anything on the roof. Doesn't see much and thinks better of it, but really grasping at that return to that first pick, much like they were doing in round number 4. It seems that whenever the opener doesn't go Fluffy's way, they try desperately to get it back, but Resident is not going to get anything other than almost all of his health taken away, and now the advance onto his position should be enough to confirm that kill, as nobody really even close. And now, bedroom control established, and a 2-player advantage for Team SESH.
Was that pick really needed as well? Like, that is just your ego, your hubris getting ahead of you there. I don't think there's really anything you can call it. Talked about how they might use the Capitao bolts to get rid of Raptors. It seems they're more focused on a construction overtake, and especially if you have 2 players down on defense, why would you not go for that con take? JJ just peeks, takes out Neo. So that's a very, very good potential comeback. You're essentially taking down a good spearhead for this team. The only way out is going to be a player finding a frag, or either the smoke bolt or a flashbang, forcing any of these players back away from this Selma that is being deployed.
The Selmas seem to be getting off okay. Impact nades are pretty much all gone on the defensive side. Matter of fact, they are all used. His rival went with both of his already. And the Selma, good to get that wall open. So it looks like a con side execute with that main wall open as well. So a lot of options here for SESH and a 1-player advantage. Seems they adapted well to the defense they walked in on last time. Good kill for Space as TK able to get 1 more. And JJ, he's gotten 2 kills this round. That's all that his team's managed to do. He would need to get every single one of the attackers. It's not going to happen. TK shuts him down. And a 3-3 half to open. Team SESH with a lot more fight in them than we might have thought.
I also think it's Fluffy AIMERS, just don't be stupid. Stop being stupid. Don't lose the player off the rip with the spawn peaks, which is like first of all, you should stop doing that. But B, don't lose the second player immediately after the spawn. That has been a crux as to why Fluffy Gamers now have lost 2 of the rounds that at most they can slowly bring it down to like a 2v2, 2v3 because they have the ability, but they're just taking these really weird angles and pushing places that they shouldn't. And I can only chalk it up to there's not too much on the line for them, and I don't think they have to take it with all that much serious. I don't like bringing that out because it feels cheap. Like, it feels like an excuse.
Yeah, that's because it is. You actually stink at your job. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, no problem.
Happy.
Anytime.
I was explaining why. You know what? Never
No,
mind. Happy. Never.
No, I get
never
you.
mind.
It's like when we have to say like they're just shooting better today, because every now and
'Cause
again
sometimes
that
that
is
is
the
true.
case. But
Yes.
you feel like you're cheating when you say that.
Yeah.
You know, and I see what you mean. It does feel like Fluffy. There are also some teams though that are just very big on equalizing and getting it back, making sure that if you lose an opener, it is traded out. I think that it's just SESH have been adapting to that so well, and they noticed that Fluffy are doing that. And they're like, okay, you know, TK, maybe somebody else is just calling that this is what you have to be ready for. Dirt, what the defense now needs to be ready for. Whether or not somebody's called that out, though, going to be a problem. As you see Castle and Mute, it looks like more of an actual SSG roam, not one as a joke. And the walk straight into the site is the perfect way to counter it. Badger looking everywhere but the actual walks into the objective. And now the rotate back needs to come through. TK and Neo able to get one each. And just like that, the players on the objective themselves have been dispatched of, and Lunar even able to flank Deity to make it a man advantage for Team SESH. The direct take only committed to by 2 players. They're traded out right after. And then the response attempts from Fluffy AIMERS go nowhere, leaving Emilio in a 1 versus 3.
I'm so confused. First, does Badger have headphones? That brother heard the skeleton key and was like, man, that ceiling looks so good right about now. Does not flinch. And then the rest of Fluffy AIMERS just not coalescing around that. Like, when you have a very clear site that you're like, okay, we're going to enter this, I think you've got to shift your position around that. Take that kitchen site, get that top floor, clear just a modicum out so you can make enough space to get that diffuser down, cover the angles that you really need to. It mostly was just about, okay, we have this one angle. We notice there's a player here. Badger is completely lost. We'll take advantage of that. You've only mapped out the first part of your plan here, and you're just rolling on a whim. And I think most of Fluffy AIMERS have been doing exactly that so far.
Okay.
It's not gone. Emilio drops
Not over.
one, does not see the second,
Oh.
and he's done.
Well, a nice effort from Emilio. Innovative way to get into the bomb site, too. Try and create a new angle, because you know with the castle barricades up and all those walls you can't open, thanks to the mute jammers, that they're going to expect you in 1 of 2 or 3 spots, so add a 4th. I like that approach. Unfortunately, just barely a couple pixels away from getting to kill that Frost, or at least getting a head-to-head fight where he was ready for the Frost, and possibly winning that out, but instead, we end up with Team SESH back in the lead. And I think, I think the way that you were kind of phrasing it is fair, where it's like, that is the expected response to that kind of a roam. So Fluffy AIMERS either not having people ready on the cut angles to fall back from exactly where Team SESH chose to fall back from, or not having people faster through blue to try and pressure the site directly. Either one of those things would have helped. Instead, you get the 2 players in dirt perfectly, but the hatch is open, at least the kitchen hatch is open, and everybody's already flooding back in from blue. None of your teammates have caught anybody rotating back, and so the people rotating back have caught you. Good job to SESH not panicking and just getting back as soon as physically possible. As in the year of our Lord 2024, you're very aware of the gap in an SSG roam. Everybody is. And so, good on them to be very wary of that. Certainly not the first time they've been direct taken on, but, well, hopefully for their sake, it'll be the last, and Fluffy AIMERS now need to try and approach off the site.
Being down like this is... I don't think that looks good for Fluffy AIMERS as well. A lot better than that. And I've said that there's not a lot on the line. They've guaranteed themselves the playoff spot here. You can still very easily get in that second to third, especially depending on the result of today. Overtime gives Space Station a lot to work with once you go into that the final play day tomorrow. They play SESH, so they potentially, given the results of today, really can hold the keys to SESH's success. And if they want to secure their spot, they will have a lot to play for. That is, Fluffy Aimers can just kind of snuff out that light here. I don't know if they want to. They don't seem to have that fire in them that you usually would expect from a team. And the fact that JJ right now is the top fragger, it's good for him. I don't think it's good for the rest of Fluffy Aimers, who definitely want to rely on somebody like Rival to potentially get that job done.
Yeah, some ops you've seen him on through the game are like Amira, now he's on Thermite, so very clearly it hasn't been a role swap. You just want other people to get those kills. Rival typically such a great entry, 2 and 5 so far today, so disappointing for him. But very quick progress made by Fluffy Aimers, already flushing out all of Cash and CC, putting direct pressure on the bomb site, and even sooner than they got that control, it was given away by SESH. They felt very afraid to hold on to all that, so now they can start to open up some of these angles into the site with the Thermite charges and the Selmas, and use the Thatchers to try and make sure the Lunar isn't able to foil any of those plans. And then Resident and Rival can really start to get to work, as Rival, with a big kill, jump in through Kitchen, also not countered, because the player who was in Kitchen, now no longer there. Badger able to get a kill into Emilio, C4 out to try and make sure the approach is halted, but it's SESH getting everything at the moment. He's Space and Lunar are able to get one more kill each. And now Deity and JJ, the Thatcher Thermite combo, need to be as iconic as they usually are in the 2 versus 4. Now 2 versus 2, now that JJ and Deity have each been able to get one back, but Deity now down. Leaves JJ in the cut. 1 versus 2 needs to isolate one of these guys first. And given how close they are to one another, that's not going to be an easy task. One in the hallway. That's TK, was moved back to the gym. Miss on the camera, so info going to be known if he chooses to walk through the hallway. Barbed wire going to give it away as well, and he gets the swing he wanted, but TK wins the fight anyways. And a 2-round win streak to start off the second half, and SESH seemed to be on the winning end of a game that we didn't quite think they were going to get away with.
I mean, Fluffy Aimers got that 44% attack rate. If they already went 3 and 3 on a side where they clearly much prefer, I don't think they're going to have a lot of steam going into that second half, where they are a lot less strong, and you can see it. The Rival is still struggling. He is 3 and 6, got 1 kill in that round, but he's not the spearhead. He's what you want that to be. I guess if you would call it a spear, the tip is very blunt right now, and that handle, the JJ Blast handle, it is so beefy right now. Like, it will take a very strong man to wield it, and JJ Blast is the man wielding that spear, being the backbone for this team. It is hard for him to win a 1v2 in that current situation. You don't have a lot of info, you don't have a lot of time. Which time is also the thing that kills this team. They've always been slow, and if they can't get that attack to start off right, which none of them seem to be starting off right, you're working off of nothing. Happy.
And that's especially an issue because we know what Fluffy Aimers tend to do when they lose that opener. They get a little desperate. Maybe they make some ill-advised plays trying to get back at it. The Mira trick, along with the Bandit Wire on the main wall, and the other Mira being used on the Rafters wall. This is a setup that I have never seen before, and I appreciate the innovation. However, that second Mira actually getting popped and now being countered does mean that you won't have the one for top red. However, it seems to have dissuaded JJ from even really trying to make a play on this wall at all. He'll just head over to construction, try and cut his losses and make sure he's able to get something open. Aggressive swing from Space to try and find the Thermite, but Thermite nowhere to be seen. Instead, we'll stay at a 5-on-5 with Space and not falling off in spite of the angle getting opened.
Emilio opening the con wall, I believe. I'm trying to deployed that Selma, I think actually chose against it, but it seems that Fluffy AIMERS are deciding on this con take. That seems to be the idea of today. We saw Team SESH go for a con take. Fluffy AIMERS now going for a con take as well. JJ Blast is on that wall, I believe. The Selma. I'm trying to think. How did the wall get open? Was it JJ?
It was the con wall. The construction wall was or
No,
the main wall.
the
Yeah, Selma's. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways.
okay. The Selmas are up. So.
Oh, they're just right in there. Badger's gonna get one with his C4. Lunar gets another kill onto Deity, and nothing going right for Fluffy AIMERS. They're not winning a single engagement because I think the Ying Candelas are working better in favor of the defense than they are in favor of Fluffy. And who but JJ to be left last alive yet again, trying to support his teammates, but his teammates just not quite finding a lot of success on those entries. Hoping for a swing on the rafters window. It doesn't seem likely that he'll get it. They can still hear him out here. They still are very aware of his position. So JJ just going to rappel up to the roof and try and see what he can find elsewhere. Might be able to find that one player who was sitting so close to the open con wall, but instead, that player is long gone. I actually don't know how that Azami that's just kind of sitting in the middle of the room was even put down. Nice shot from JJ, but everyone shows themselves right after he gives away his position, playing off contact to the ultimate extent, and Team SESH on match point over Fluffy AIMERS.
3 points with a potential plus. It would be 4 right about now. That is so
Huge.
good for Team SESH. That puts them, if this would be the final result, Team SESH would be winning the last round as we enter the timeout. Team SESH would be 1 point behind Outlast Black. The only thing they would need to overtake them would be an overtime win. I don't think they would be able to win on round count. Then it just falls to, if they win versus Outlast Black, they're in, because Outlast Black do not have a game tomorrow. If this would be the final result, it creates a lot of really interesting scenarios for the final best of one that we have. But that is still one round. We've got a lot to go. Fluffy AIMERS finally taking that time out, just not been able to gather anything on their attack. They seem lost. Obviously, you mentioned the Candelas did not work out. The attack just kind of seemed all rushed and together, kind of indicative of their basement attack when you saw them try to get themselves in, but they got the first part of the plan and nothing else.
Yeah, they really didn't have any control. They couldn't get construction. They didn't even really try to get rafters. They got the main wall open, and then gym and bedroom, and then tried to hit the site directly with Team SESH all pretty close to the objective. So there wasn't really much of a gap left in the site. Nobody really going for flanks on SESH. Everyone just trying to play around the site and play off one another. Innovative idea and construction, and I like it just because of how awkward it is to walk into that wall and walk at that guy in con. Think about it from the player on the balcony walking in. If you get caught maybe trying to drop down, and also because that Logi wall is closed, that's really the only way you have to go about getting rid of that bandit in that position. So I really like that idea from SESH, and clearly tough for Fluffy AIMERS. I don't think it would work twice, but fortunately for you, you shouldn't have to go back to Cash and CC, since you really, really don't need to go back to a tertiary site when you're up 3 rounds on match point. Still remains to be seen if they will end up doing that, but back to the basement we go as they hope to close it out at 7-3.
What is the play for Fluffy AIMERS? Obviously, Dirt can't do the same strategy that she did before, where you're all going to rush in through Dirt. 80 is the only real player over by Stock as well, so seems like we are going to have a pretty basic kitchen attack where you clear out the first floor, get the vert, get the hatches. It's everything else that comes after, whether you can potentially find one player just a little bit straying out from the norm. I don't think that's going to be there. It's going to rely a lot on the Candelas and the smoke and firebolts coming over from Deity. The utility for Fluffy AIMERS hasn't really been there, especially on their attack. This is the one round where it needs to connect. Otherwise, I think they are going to be handed a loss, and a pretty brutal one at that.
I like this adaptation from SESH just because you know that Fluffy have been really struggling to get into the objective off the back of util. they're struggling to push SESH out of these positions. I mean, if you weren't able to make a play on the player sitting in construction with an open reinforced wall right behind him, you'd have to imagine it'd be harder than that to get into the basement on a full anchor setup with plenty of util to play around like gas canisters and plenty of C4s for if you try to drop the hatch. So I like this adaptation from SESH, kind of challenging Fluffy to force them out of their positions with util and with a really well-coordinated execute, and Fluffy still just trying to get into a comfortable spot before they really get that execute going. But before they're able to do that, Rival has been taken down in the opener, and a big man advantage has gone to SESH.
Utility. Still think that's where the equalizer, now equalizer, is going to come through. One Candela is taken away by a magnet. There's Resided. Takes out Badger, and the entry is there. Can they get anything done?
JJ gets right into it. And we were talking about how he isn't normally the enabled player. Does a great job enabling the rest of his team. Goes 1 for 1, but opens up a lot of opportunities. Good trade, though, from Space to make sure it's still even. And the run-up on the Moto doorway, not expected from Emilio. Lunar makes a big play. Trade back from Deity. He needs to get 2, but he's not up to the task. And Lunar will close out a 7-3 win for SESH. We thought they were dead in the water at 0-0-0-3, but they get their first points of the season over Fluffy AIMERS. And we wait for later tonight in their match against Outlast Black to see if they'll stand a chance at sneaking into the playoffs.
Better late than never, eh?
Yeah.
Like, if all it takes is a couple wins, especially against a team that it's a little bit unexpected, but one thing that Fluffy AIMERS has had is they have looked a little bit less than themselves, whether to E3, swapping those 2 players. They have found a bit of success, but when they just need to lock it down, take a team out, get themselves some good points going into the final game, which would be tomorrow, they can't get it done. And now I think that opens up a lot for SSG and puts a lot on Fluffy AIMERS' shoulders to potentially perform tomorrow if they want to get a high seed. I will say they're locked for playoffs. They will continue playing no matter what. It's just about who they play and when.
Unfortunately, we do have that next SESH game coming up. However, got another game in between it. It's it's Karn & Co. versus Chalk at G coming up right after the break, and then we'll get to that oh-so-important SESH versus Outlast Black match. Plenty of great games coming up, so make sure you stay right here for the rest of the night.